Luca Nation, episode 695 of Lucas Tigers and Bronzo My, the best sports card podcast in the world. Like, subscribe, share. I have the best topic today to get a peek inside Cage's brain, or I think a peek inside of Cage's brain, because I mean, since this guy has downloaded the Splice app, he's basically living rent free in people's heads on Instagram.
I make good videos. I'm having fun. You know,
you're having fun. You make good videos, but because I have the privilege of getting to know you over 695 episodes, I think I'm privy to kind of understand where you're coming from. And a good example of that is today's topic. So Carlos Alcaraz, I've talked about him for a long, long time. And I was on my run today. It was hot, a little sweaty. And I was like, oh, I get it. The contrarian thing does work in the hobby. And I'll give you an example. Let's say Carlos Alcaraz wins the French Open. Simultaneously, a month or two later, NetPro releases his cards. Now, I know this is a tiny little kind of microcosm. It's not the Prism release. It's not National Treasures. But if that scenario happens, people are super excited and they're buying in at the top, right? Mm-hmm. They're buying in with a lot priced in and even more success priced into the future. Mm-hmm. So actually, I was thinking, wow, it's a good thing that if I was a card investor in this guy, that he lost today, which is counterintuitive because you think, wait, I want him to win so that I could buy his card and he's a winner. He has a French Open. But it's not that at all. And now we could apply that exact same thing to any other sport, any other player. Is that right? Is that fair?
Yeah, pretty much. For the young guys coming up, especially that you're talking about, yes. Because, I mean, it wasn't like he got blown out, right? I mean, he won the third set. He took the fourth set to, I think it was it a tiebreaker? I think he took it to tiebreaker. And, you know, what's the dude? Zverev? I'll probably say his name wrong, right? But I mean, he's a 3 seed, right? I mean, he's a high seed. He made it to the quarters. Got a bad draw. He's a good tennis player, the guy that he got the draw against. And come on, you know, I know he's young, but it's tough to come right off of Madrid and go to French, you know? I mean, and French is tough. It's a different surface. I mean, there's a lot of things going on here. So, yeah, if your point is you might be able to get a guy you believe in long-term without having to buy him at a humongous run-up because he just burst on the scene, yeah, that's 100% right. I think about it. We're in a lot of Instagram groups. Some of them are not in enough. We apologize for that. But some of them we're in. People talk a lot. The ones that we don't have to drive the conversation in are the ones that we usually spend the most time in because we learn a lot from those. You know, we hear what everybody's saying. And I'm sure you noticed it. There was a lot of Alcaraz talk, not even coming from you. And people taking credit for it. People like, hey, I'm the first one. No, he's the first on Alcaraz. And all I wanted to say was, okay, Andrew's been talking about this dude since like 2014. But, you know, this dude was in gold-plated diapers. No, but I didn't because who cares about the credit, right? I mean, You're on it and the whole deal. We talked about that. But yes, if he won now 2 in a row and won a major, yeah, it would be very difficult for you to be buying his stuff. But now he loses, and it wasn't like he got destroyed. But you're not going to have a million headlines so that your dentist comes out of the woodwork and is looking to buy Alcatraz cards. I make a joke, you know? So you're able to now stock up. You as a collector of him, somebody who believes in him long-term, or an investor of him, you have another opportunity, maybe your last opportunity, if you really, truly believe in him. And yes, so for you, it's better. And this is one of those things collectors say, right? Like, they don't want wax going up so much. They don't want prices going up. There are cards that they wanted to buy that you just didn't get, and now they can't. If you believe that.
Let's talk. Same exact example. January or February of this year. Well, I mean, it feels recent, but I mean, that's 4 or 5 months ago. Yeah. Same exact thing with Tatum, right?
100%. I was a buyer of Tatum. I was telling people to buy Tatum.
Fuck that. You have a clip. You have video evidence of this. And the point is, when you start out 18 and 21 and other people are selling or they're not noticing, is the time to look and get. A lot of people said this to me, and I'm only starting to understand.
It was Super Bowl week. Everybody was all in the Super Bowl.
You make money on the entry.
That's right.
And they say this a lot in real estate, and I didn't really understand it. I was like, but what do you mean? You buy an awesome house, it's on the water, it's going to go up. And they're like, no. It's also when you buy. You make money on the entry. So let's talk about that same example, because your video on Tatum went viral. You're making jokes. People think you're a mean human being. They obviously think Tatum watches our show and gets butthurt about it too.
Maybe he does. Maybe he
He's
does.
just a 24-year-old. But like, I understand where the guy's coming from.
So do I. And you never know where somebody sits and what's going on in their life. And you try to be.
But what did you say to me? You said, "Well, I'm trying to save people money."
I'm trying to save people money. I was trying to make people money, and now I'm trying to save people money. Why? Because Tatum's cards are right now priced for perfection, right? People who are buying the cards now, right? People who are purchasing the Tatum cards now, right? They must be huge Tatum fans, and they also must be, people who don't understand how like FOMO works, right? And sure, if you're a big Tatum fan and you buy him now, and he turns out to win the championship and then comes back next year and wins the MVP and wins another championship, you can laugh at me. You can say, Cage, what the hell is your problem? Look, go back to that episode 695, where you said don't buy Tatum, and look what he did. He's won 2 championships and MVP since. Very possible. But what are the chances that happens? First of all, they're an underdog in this first series here, right? So right off the bat, and I know Vegas odds, no one wants to talk about them, but that's all I have right now. We can talk about the matchups. I'll go through that also, but I just want to make my point, right? Concise. The upside from here, there is potential upside, but there is significantly more downside. And I know this is going to shock people, but I work in risk management. It's what I do, right? That is my actual profession, right? It's boring, but it comes in handy when I these clips, these takes, sure, tongue-in-cheek, sure, poke the bear, sure, yes, Kobe really didn't text back to Jason Tatum. That was me. I'll own it. It was me.
But it was layered and it was funny, and like it's actually a quote that Cage and I say to each other all the time when we get off business calls. So it's actually a freaking funny layered joke.
Yeah. So but the point here is there is significantly more downside built in, and you don't have to look too far to see it. Look at Ja's prices over the last couple of months. And I know there's other things in with Ja. Look at Giannis's prices. Hell, look at what happened to Mahomes' cards after he won the Super Bowl, right? Because right now this is buy the rumor, sell the news type of stuff, right? Have you ever heard that in the stock market? This is the peak of FOMO. It's, cards going up. I mean, yesterday or over the weekend, Tatum Green PSA 10 sold for $4,000. I mean, I was talking about that when the clip was 2. I mean, that's a double. Do you expect it to go up from 4? That's a FOMO buy. That's somebody who is buying at a peak. And I'm trying to use some experience over time, looking at charts for the long term. I'm trying to use recent experience with young stars in modern cards, where even when things break perfectly, the cards are not where they are when you buy at that peak. Hell, look at Joe Burrow. There's no precedent for what that dude did last year, right? But unless you timed it right and you bought in the season, or you bought when I told you to buy right after he got hurt,
right? The timing right. It's very hard to time the stock market. Yeah. But with cards, there are these pinnacle moments of injury or knocked out of the playoffs or starting the season slow that you still can't really time it because you don't know what's going to happen.
No, but you can balance your risk. That's it. You can take your risk into account. And right now, there is so much less upside for Tatum and so much more downside. And that's what I'm trying to get out. I'm not saying anything about him and his life and his relationship with Kobe or any of these things. Those things definitely, they cut to a negative for me personally. Like, I don't think you need it because the job's not done. Job's not finished. You'll go finish the job and then tell us all about your Mamba mentality, right? I mean, that's the way I take it. Remember,
a lot of people agreed with you, but cross
about 90%.
Cross out Tatum and just put a blank there.
Anyone, yes,
any player that could fit in that category.
Anyone. And look, Lowry came out with a stupid quote yesterday too. He said the season was a wasted season because they weren't playing for a championship. Thanks. I'm sure your teammates loved to hear that, pal. I get it. I know what he's trying to say. But come on, that's a garbage take also. You know what I mean? Everybody's frustrated. You don't say it's a waste. You just went to war with these guys. You just took, you just took a 7-game series. And you just say the whole thing was a waste. These guys are
I think the Heat overachieved.
So do I. And but here's the thing. As much as the Heat pressed, think of what the Celtics have done here now to get to where they are, right? And I think this is obviously their toughest matchup, but they've taken out some pretty darn good teams along the way. You know, with the Heat being the 1 seed, also might have actually been the worst team that they face, believe it or not, right? Just an interesting matchup for them from an athleticism standpoint. But
touche. You're absolutely right. I didn't think about it. And
it's been a gauntlet, man. It's been a gauntlet.
This is rare. They've actually beat 3 teams that have 3 really different juggernauts or magic powers. If they were like the Avengers guys, we have Durant and Kyrie, which is just a really difficult matchup.
Yep.
2 offensive players. Then they had Giannis, which brought its own set of challenges, and they brought on basically the best defense that they faced. So 3 completely, and they've adapted. And
yep.
I think,
time. Think about that. If I were a Tatum proponent, I understand why his cards have gone up, right? Because think of the gauntlet he has ran, right? He went through Durant, he went through Giannis, and then he just went through, the best Jimmy Butler that they were going to get, and a Heat team that had home field advantage and all the other fun stuff, right? So don't take anything away from what the Celtics have done. I don't want to say Tatum per se, but Tatum is the leader. He was the won the Bird Award and all that fun stuff. The point here is not even Tatum, guys. Yeah, I think he is. I mean, I don't want to shit on it too much. I think he is, right? Although if you look at the last 4 minutes of Game 7, maybe it was good that he wasn't taking shots. Maybe if Marcus Smart wasn't taking shots, it wouldn't have gotten as close as it did when he was shooting 3-pointers with 11 seconds left on the shot clock instead of letting the clock run down. But he's their alpha. I think they go where he goes. I think they'll follow him. I do believe that. I don't want to completely crap on the guy. He's just not somebody that I personally love at these prices. Come on, guys. I gave him as a play. I gave him multiple times as a play. I gave the Celtics when nobody was talking about the Celtics. No one was talking about basketball. I mean,
one play was, guys, the collectible and play. I know there's a backlash.
Yeah, but it was the point
of
of
your podcast because it doesn't talk about the value of cards. We're infinite millionaires and we just buy cards because we love them.
Well, play is shoot.
The 2 plays were the Tatum 10-10 auto on collectible that you talked about.
So that would be bought out. It was bought out like the next week. Yep.
And then the Tatum Green, which is a low pop, is I think how you word it, low pop color match. So it's not like a silver, but it's trading a fraction of the price of the silver, I believe.
No, it was trading. There's like 1/6 of the amount of silvers, but only trading at like 2 times the price of the silvers. Plus, retail normally doesn't get the love, but when it's the Celtics, the green usually does look a little bit better. And it's a nice color match for him. It was just an odd version. And I said, you don't have to do that. We have a lot of people who responded. They remember that, and they bought Optic, they bought Parallels, they bought other ones. I even said, pick the one that speaks to you. I just gave that one because sometimes we like to talk about a specific card. But the point there was the Celtics were putting it together. You had some great points about the team chemistry. You talk about Al Horford, not just Derek White, which is another video I clipped because people should be clipping this stuff all the time. But who the hell else in the world was talking about Derek White? Man, you pull that right out of your ass. You talk about White. You talk about Marcus Smart, who I have also talked about. And I think he's really we kind of compared him to like a poor man's Draymond, which is an interesting matchup coming in this series also. We talked about. We had a whole analysis of this. Now, neither of us said the Celtics were going to win, but I did compare it to like the run that the Rams and the Bengals went on to the Super Bowl. That anybody can catch fire at any point in time. Anybody can get momentum, can start playing like a team, and go on a run. A couple weeks before the Super Bowl, nobody was picking Rams Bengals, right? But that's the way that it broke, right? People got hot at the right time. So
do you feel bad for Dennis Schroeder?
This guy of his tattoo? No,
I didn't see his tattoo. This guy turned out like
he got a $80
million contract.
He got a Celtics tattoo also.
And then he gets traded away from the team, and they go to the championship, to the final. That's a tough few years, man. I mean, he's a millionaire. Be grateful.
I like the Celtics, man. I mean, listen, look how it's a gritty, put together thing. And think of what everybody was talking about at the beginning of the year. You and me included. Can Tatum and Brent play together? And we talked about this. If they find a way, go for it. Now, guys, go look back at the games. What I like the best about this is there are days where Tatum is not. So if I'm going to make an argument for Tatum, and this is not me saying buy his cards now, guys, right? I love Luka, but I wasn't telling you to buy his cards when he was beating the Suns, right? Because it's exactly the same scenario, right? Like, that's not the time to buy, right? Now, if you want to buy anytime, it's like dollar cost averaging stocks. You want to buy Luca now, and if it goes down, you can buy more Luca. That's fine. Also, it's another strategy. I'm just saying that your only entry into somebody, it shouldn't be at that run up, at that high point, right? Now,
And let's call a spade a spade. We trade cards because they're not like stocks, and it's not that easy to dollar cost average into a $4,000 green PSA 10. Like, I don't know
100%.
who you guys are, but like, I don't dollar cost average into $4,000 cards.
plus, there's not that many of them the dollar cost average too. Nothing to say there's going to be one for sale for you. You know, I mean, that's kind of it's kind of the fun part about this stuff. There's only 100 and something of them. But I mean, listen. One of the things we also talked about, we had a huge argument. Guys, go back to that, me punching myself in the head, and
He hasn't been right.
talking about like,
Still has this like Twitch.
yeah,
Mind your business. Mind your business.
look, hey, whoopity, like
If you guys know what that's from,
we
mind your business. That's all. Just mind your business.
We
gotta have
we
this
had
tweak.
we had this whole back and forth about Giannis, and Andrew pulled up Giannis's chart, right? And it was like it was $4,000 down to $1,650, then down to $1,500. And he's like, Giannis's cards are a buy. I mean, he's the best player in the league, the whole nine yards. And I'm like, if he doesn't win a championship, they're going to go down. And you're like, get the hell out of here. They're down now.
Goodwill today, they were handing out prisms like they were hotcakes.
And they were like 1,600 to 1,500, 16. Like they're down 10% in the last month. Cage, they're not going to go down anymore. He lost, they went down. It's just what happens. Right, Giannis is a fantastic player. His Prism rookie doesn't have the pop that that Zion's have, and it's a great card. And maybe he comes back next year and wins the championship. I mean, I think we all thought he might have won one this year. The downside is there now. A card like that's had the shit beaten out of it. It's the downside was kind of limited.
Well, let's pause.
Yeah, shoot.
There's a lesson that we took from Tatum. Mm-hmm. Now, let's say you're a believer in Giannis. The time to buy is not when Andrew is a moron.
No,
the time to buy is
now.
It's in the next month. It's right. It's to think a little bit ahead.
Well, let's hope to clip this, right? Let's hope to clip this, right? And Giannis was available after he lost in the 1,300s for his base Prism, 1,350. Go ahead and check out Card Ladder. You'll see the sales in the 1300s.
It's over $17,000. That was a $30,000 card.
17,000, and it's come down. And we talked about the potential upside, but I think the downside was there also, right? And well, I mean, look, it's similar to why I was buying LeBron, and maybe the next thing I jump on will be Giannis, right? Because it's not going to take much. This season will end. We'll start to hear about the draft and who's going where, and we'll start to hear what's going on in Milwaukee and whether or not they're bringing back the whole team. And Middleton's healthy. You'll start to hear news about how had they had Middleton, they would have won the championship, and maybe they bring in somebody else. Maybe they sign a free agent. Maybe they do something because Giannis is there, right? Giannis is supposed to stay there, and that's multiple championships and the whole deal. And then you have an exit before the game even starts. Maybe it's back to, before the season even starts, maybe it's back up to where it was when you and I were talking about it when, we had his run. It's not going to take much for that to go back to $1,500, $1,600. But buying at $1,500, $1,600, for it to go up, you needed everything to break right. And listen, guys, I'll be the first one to tell you, Tatum may win. He may shoot lights out. He may average 50 points a game, and the card may go up. But it's already gone up so much.
Well, let's talk about that. So let's hypothetically play that scenario out. Let's rewind 2 years. Let's go to the Super Bowl. Let's go when Patrick Mahomes won. What happened to his cards?
Yeah, I mean, listen, the cards went they a slight bump, and then immediately following, like the weekend Super Bowl, they came back down. They were running up the entire time, and they came down because it was buy the rumor, sell the news. And when the news actually happened, everybody who was buying his cards were buying because they thought he was going to win the Super Bowl and that they could sell it for more. And this is what happens, right? If everybody's buying not to hold it because they believe in Mahomes long term, and some people bought to hold, but most people were buying on the run up during those playoffs, hoping that after he won the Super Bowl, boom, it's going to spike. Well, what happens is everybody who bought now puts it on the market to sell, and the price comes down because there's more supply available.
So look, guys, here's the lesson. Now, if you're a collector listening to our show, we love you. But for the peasants out there, for the investors, for the dealers that don't operate with infinite bankroll and dollar cost, and it doesn't matter what the card price is. I love it. I'm gonna buy it. I'm a collector. I'm never selling this. Amazing. That's a demo, and they sit above us and they look down on us like we're Gluteus Maximus in Marcus Aurelius. Gluteus Maximus. But for us who work with finite bankrolls, there's a valuable lesson here.
There's no one the gladiator named Gluteus Maximus.
The right entry point when it is time to buy.
Listen, the entry point is a huge part of this equation. And you're right about my contrarian, ways. I mean, look, we talk about LeBron. I don't love LeBron. But LeBron's cards, not just the ones that I'm buying, LeBron's cards are getting beat up. And if you're a believer in LeBron is a different scenario now. LeBron's cards are, significantly lower than they were. They're not higher than they were, like some of the younger guys. And I think the floor is in on him because he's already done so much. People always agree with that. People want somebody who – I'm sure there's someone listening to this who's a Tatum fan who says, Tatum's going to win 5 championships. I got to get in now before he does that, and his cards are priced more than LeBron's. And if you have that conviction, please do not let anything I'm saying to you, turn you away from that conviction. If that is your guy and you believe that and you want to make your play on that, that's great. But a month ago, people were saying the same thing about Giannis. And people were talking about LeBron winning, Durant winning, Luka winning, Ja winning. And we're going to have this conversation again when the NFL season starts.
Only one can win.
Yeah, you can only have one winner. And I know winning a championship doesn't mean everything, but it does mean a lot in what we do. That's kind of what people chase, right? That's kind of
it's not everything, but it is like the stop of like the season too. It is like where we get all the results, the report cards in, and we get to assess without speculation.
Unfortunately, it's a huge thing, man, because the way you've seen this, and it's a learning experience for both of us, right? Like, not everybody wants to buy old cards like I do. Not everybody wants to buy the dull stuff, right? They like the run. They like the momentum, right? So it's not just the cardboard relevance. It's that momentum that builds, and you don't lose it. It's Lamar Jackson coming in, kicking ass, winning MVP, but then nothing else, momentum gone. It's very hard to pick that back up. Right? So that's why Lamar's prices are way down. Mahomes is a great example. The prices are high because he came in, won, kept winning. Burrow, high. People are going to expect what from Burrow next year? An MVP? A Super Bowl?
What's cool about you, though, and I got to give you praise for this, is you are not someone that got stuck in their ways. So 2-3 years ago, a little while ago, people would be like, you buy in the off season. Remember that whole time?
Yep.
And everyone was buying like football. You were actually buying Tatis and Pete Alonso's when you were always, but then that game changed, right? Yep. Remember, we even had episodes where you talked about like, now you have to buy even earlier.
So off season changed, and also what you could buy changed because, when I was doing that with Tatis in 2019, population count hadn't exploded yet. People were not grading all of these things, right? And the fact that everybody tried to do what I was doing with Tatis and Alonso and all the other cards meant that those cards, the supply just became almost never ending. You saw it with Zion, that with your come up, right? And
it's funny when people were buying onto the Zion come up, he came back, played great versus the Spurs. It was Zion, Ja. Everyone was buying those guys. You were buying Tatis.
Yep.
Remember that right before baseball season started.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because no one was looking, and then everyone will be looking, and that's usually the way that I buy. Right now, everyone's looking at Tatum. You know what I'm doing?
Tell me.
I'm buying hockey.
Dude, have you seen Connor McDavid's?
I'm not buying McDavid. I'm buying Austin Matthews because he's out.
His market cap exceeded Brady. You saw that?
Yeah, because those. I mean, it's not the rarest card. I mean, the more recent stuff, you're going to see those market caps expand. I mean, I'm buying some football. I'm buying goats. I'm buying LeBron. I'm buying Tiger Woods. I'm buying cards that are beat down that I just couldn't get over this last 2-year run up. My hope is that over time, a long period of time, those things will continue to go back up.
You think Gretzky's worth a look?
Always, but it's a different kind of buyer. You know what I mean? Gretzky's a different kind of buyer. So it's not somebody who's looking to capitalize on a 3x next year when there's a playoff run. You know what I mean?
I'm pulling up the Gretzky.
Because Gretzky's not going to score on Igor Shesterkin, Shesterkin.
My Uncle Igor?
No, Igor.
He's everywhere.
Shesterkin. That's the goalie for the Rangers.
So this is the card ladder index for Wayne Gretzky. It was 20,000 on card ladder last year, 1 year ago, literally today. Here it is, 11,800. So the whole Gretzky market. What'd you say?
Not doing so great. down a lot, actually.
I mean, is this worth a look for you guys? I mean, this is just the market that I'm pointing out. You guys make your own decisions, and this is the card ladder index. And I know some people out there say love it, praise it. Some people say it's somewhat inaccurate. I think it's the best thing we have right now. So here's some cards that you guys might want to take a look at, and an index like you just said, buying hockey. Gretzky, who's down what is that? 40%.
Yeah, 40%. I love the card ladder guys. They give great advice. They give great data. Everything's great. They obviously listen to our show because, I mean, how many people listening right now have ever heard of John Hondo Havlicek? And yet 2 episodes in the last week, I made you guess whether it was Jordan or Havlicek. By the second time, you knew where I was going, and you guessed it, and you said, don't give me that Havlicek crap.
Don't give me that Havlicek crap.
And Chris Hodge is doing a comparison between Jordan and John Hondo Havlicek on his story. I mean, I love these guys.
We're all fighting for territory. We all want to win. We're all competitive. My only ask is that if people do take content from each other, always.
I just cited card letter data. We're doing it. They can do it. It's okay.
Right. And not the only ones. I mean, I think we all are in it together, but we're all competing against each other. But if we do take content from each other, I think it's respectful to give a shout out. You know, I got this here. I got that there. By that same token, is Booker a buy?
If you believe in Booker, yes. I personally do not. Right? I don't think that I don't know, man. You know when I'd buy him? If the news came out that he was no longer a Kardashian. Does that make me an ass?
No, they're the asses. If we're really going.
That's another thing. It just rubs me the wrong way. Like, you know, like maybe I'm just an idiot, but I mean, I think if your head's in that, your head's not where it's supposed to be. I mean, I'm not saying, he needs to be a monk or anything like that.
Here's the 1 year Booker chart from 45K 1 year ago last year, basically, to 24K. So literally down 50%, 40% again.
Here's the thing. Assuming the Suns make the postseason next year and have a run like they had this year, Chris Paul will turn 38 during that run. He turned 37. And by the way, his stats went down immediately on his 37th birthday. He had a couple good games and then had a couple of stinkers in the playoffs. It was literally his 37th birthday, and all of a sudden, he played like a 37-year-old. So Booker has had the benefit of this team, which you love, man. You've talked about this team, right? He had the benefit of this team. He's had the benefit of Chris Paul, who's declining and will be worse next year. Not saying anything. I love Chris Paul. I think he's great. But he'll be a year older next year, and it's tough to get better as you get older.
You said something really great to me, and I remember from my playing days, is your body wears down as the season goes on.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, I mean,
right?
not only, and it's tougher to Chris Paul's made a lot of money. He's got a lot of advertisements. He could probably call games if he wanted to. He could probably be on SportsCenter or whatever it is, and that hits you in the off season. You're like, do I really need to go all full out on this? I went full out last year and it didn't get me that championship. I'll make my money, and
fucking Pat Bev just shitting on my legacy after I had one of the best seasons ever. I turned this franchise around.
But I mean, like Mikal Bridges, are we gonna get another Defensive Player of the Year season out of him? Like he played at like peak level, right? Ayton played at peak level for Ayton. I mean, they got offense out of Ayton. That dude can't dance, right? You got contributions from all these guys. You got Booker. Like I think there's a window, especially with Chris Paul, doing his thing, and I think we were probably on the wrong side of the window for Booker. Now that doesn't mean he is got a window closing on him, personally. And who knows? Maybe he stays in Phoenix. Maybe they add somebody this year. Who knows what's going to happen there? But you would think that with what they had, with as many wins as they put together, and that you would have liked to have seen him win one in the last couple of years.
What you said is stuck with me, and it's kind of why I probably won't buy Booker, not for a long-term hold, is you realize how crazy, almost psychotic Kobe is. To shoot his, you're like, well, if you're going to lose, you lose swinging.
That's right.
Easy to say, Cage. It's really hard to do. When you do that, you have to face two enemies short term. You're like the fans are going to be like, yo, this guy's just shooting terribly. But then also like your teammates are going to be like, you don't trust us? And it takes a certain level of.
Oh, yeah. Well, Kobe didn't care about either one of those. You're right, though. Jimmy Butler took that shot, and the first thing you see the next day is Here's why I took it. I hope my teammates are okay with it. Like they're okay with it, and like so you're 100% right. Like, and that's just one shot at the end of the game for your best player, who was your only offensive option, basically.
Who's as tough as nails.
And he still has to explain why he took a shot that may not have been the one that he should have taken. So I get you entirely, but Booker, this is 2 postseasons in a row where I think he just vanished.
Right.
I mean, last year in the finals, I was making jokes about like ghosts and stuff, typical Cage
I remember
takes, and he vanished again. So
what's
Booker's tough. Booker's a tough one.
What's top of mind? We could talk Warriors a little. Anything that you want to talk baseball? Anything that's kind of
Rangers advanced.
Nice.
Aaron Judge is showing, when you were playing for your money, you play for your money. Dude's got 18 home runs. Mookie Betts quietly, I don't own any more of his cards. I don't own a single Mookie Betts card anymore, but he's quietly putting together another great season out there in LA. Just really doing some good stuff. A week or two ago when Boston was getting just killed by everyone, I was nervous about my prediction of 4 teams. My what do you call it, like hot take / like bold prediction that 4 teams from the AL East were going to make the playoffs. And Boston started to get hot again, and I still think that's live, but I kind of don't want to see it. I want to see the Angels in the playoffs. I do. I want to see Mike Trout, Shohei. I want to see those guys play. I have 1 Trout card, and I got no Shoheis. And I kind of feel like Shohei, his cards are also, pretty high, but he's doing something. I know nobody cares about baseball. Nobody cares about baseball at all, but he's doing something now that just doesn't get done. And people should watch, because I don't know how much longer he's going to be able to do it. Pitch at a high level and hit at a high level. It's really amazing because, you can be an elite athlete. He's basically like 2 elite athletes, which is just, it's amazing. Most people who pitch can't hit beyond like high school, and, maybe low A ball they can still hit. It takes a lot to be like a legit hitter and legit pitcher.
The thing is with baseball, I always say, I'll apply this to BGS too. Like you're cold until you're hot again. Right, so like no one cares about baseball until they do.
Yep.
I know that's like a big presumption, but I do think a really interesting World Series. I do think Trout in the playoffs would add a little bit of flavor because of how much money, first off, people hold in his cards.
Of course.
I think that would have an impact.
All right, so my next hot take. We don't have to do a long episode today, but this is basketball, and this is for you. All right, so you tell me what you think about this. I believe that you live by the sword and you die by the sword. And I believe the NBA is facing a problem. All right? Now, baseball has a problem also, pace of play, excitement, you name it. The NFL does not have this problem. The NFL, the pace of play, the competition, you name it. It's all great.
NFL, they don't even play.
If you go back, think about the playoffs and think about how exciting these playoff games were. This last round of the playoffs. So this is where I'm going. Okay, let's just do a playoff comparison. Now, blowouts. I have a theory about the blowouts. Okay, you can tell me what you think about this and what the NBA may or may not do. We don't have to solve it today. The NBA is going to have a problem, though. Okay, the 3-pointer is a problem. Okay, and if you go back to the 90s and you look at playoffs, the playoffs were close. They were exciting games. And it's because you did not have the ability to jump out and blow somebody out and just destroy somebody by continuing to bang away from 3, get hot from 3, just take all 3s while the other team is not hitting their 3s, right? And we're seeing this postseason more than ever. I don't know the numbers, but I guarantee if you look at the numbers, the amount of 3-pointers being taken and being made by teams this postseason,
Kirk Goldsberry,
as opposed to even last season, it's significantly more, right? So I'm sure it is Goldsberry. I think Colin Cowherd, who on his podcast, he mentioned this also within the last week or so. I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there, but how do you fix it, right? Because this is really the Boston goes on a blowout because they made 23 pointers, right? Do you move the 3-point line back? Do you make it easier to defend 3-point shooters where you can, it used to be like hand checking for people going by you, do you allow people to get up closer? Do you only give two free throws for somebody who gets foul taken? I don't know the right answer, but I believe that if you look at, it'll trend even higher next year. because analytics are very helpful. They're helpful in, I mean, baseball, they just slow the shit out of the game. Analytics helpful in football. Analytics are very helpful in sports, but I think what analytics did here is actually create a problem for the league.
Thank God you're not a defense attorney and you never cross-examine, because you never actually finish with a question.
Well, the question is, what would you do?
I don't think we have a problem. I think people have an illusion of a problem, and they're using this year as a kind of a scapegoat.
So many blowouts, though.
I think that's an illusion. I think what happened was the first round games of.
I mean, the scores are there. The scores are there. That's an illusion.
But we don't care about blowouts. What we care about is competitive games.
Correct.
Right? You could have a competitive game and a team just goes on a run and blows them out at the end of the game, but the whole 3.5 quarters. Golden State in their prime used to play competitive, and then come out and just stomp on people the fourth quarter. You remember this? And win by 15, even though the whole game was close.
Yes.
I think what happened in this playoffs was the early round matchups were more exciting than the Eastern and Western Conference finals.
I mean, mostly because I think what you're seeing here is you're seeing the better three-point shooting teams advance. And the Celtics have been lights out from three in their wins.
So let me say, if the Celtics ended up playing the Bucks in the Eastern Conference Finals and they beat the Heat in round 1, I think it would be actually, or round 2, I think it'd be a little more interesting, right?
I mean, I didn't think that. I mean, it was a better series. Yes, I understand what you're saying. I just think we're going to wind up having next year even more. I think we're going to have even more 3-point shots. Dude, you saw it. Remember, think about it this way. You said it. We were on the phone watching one of the games. I forget which game it was. It might have been the Bucks, where somebody had, might have been the Heat, might have been Jimmy Butler, where somebody had an open layup. They would drive into the basket. There was a 2-on-1, and they don't take the layup. They kick it out for a 3-pointer, which was even more contested than a layup. Because analytics is saying that this is what we should be doing. We should be keep firing those 3-pointers. Because a team that gets the 2s can't keep up. So I again, could be wrong, but this is what I see.
I don't like the way that Rockets and the Mavs play, where all they do is chuck threes. The Rockets worse than anyone. They're just chucking threes. But I actually think both of these teams, all 4 of these teams played really well. I think the matchups weren't as exciting as some of the potential matchups we would have seen. Like if we got to see Nets versus Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals, and we got to see Suns versus the Warriors. Give me a second.
Yeah.
In the Western Conference Finals, I think those would be very compelling Eastern and Western Conference matchups, and we wouldn't be saying this stuff. I think, why didn't we? Just seeding, dude. Sometimes seeding works out differently.
I think we didn't because the teams like the Nets did not have a good 3-point. Joe Harris is injured. They didn't have a 3-point shooter. They couldn't keep up with the 3-point shooting of the teams that they were playing against. I think this league now is analytics driven. Throw up as many 3-pointers as you can. And look, the Celtics, the games they've lost are the games they've missed their threes. Clear as day.
I mean, but that's such a revisionist history. It's like, obviously, if you miss the most important shot in the game, you're going to lose.
So
it's like saying in the NFL, this team doesn't pick up third down conversions, so they lose.
It's different. So the number of 3-point shots being taken in the league has increased every year for the last 10 years.
Yes. Right?
10 years ago, 22.2% of the shots. This year, 40%, 39 and change percent. And it's increased more in the last 5 years than the 5 years before. And I anticipate next year it'll be more than 40% of the shots. It'll be 3-point shots. And that's fine, right? But the 3-point shot, when it was put in to reward somebody for shooting it. Now you got people shooting from a logo, right? So it's one of those things where I mean,
but that's the same thing happened in the NFL where they went from running to passing. They remember the West Coast offense? I didn't even know what that was about.
Yes, they went from running to passing.
The West Coast offense on the East, and then do you remember the West Coast offense changed the NFL in the 2000s?
But they didn't. Yes, they did. People went, and it's more pass happy, right? And then every team went and passed the ball, right? So I guess the answer is just you have to be the team that makes the threes. You have to be the one that runs the offense better, right? You have to be the one that runs the run and gun or the West Coast offense better than the other teams, right?
And then under pressure, and then you add that. Okay, but you could throw the ball really well, like the Chargers did with Phillip Rivers during the regular season, but they could never do it in the playoffs, right? So now you evolve, and then how do you cover the 3? So,
right.
I mean, dude, this Boston team's incredible. You know what's special about this Boston team? You could look at how they're making their threes. they block so many 3-pointers. Robert Williams, shooting a 3 over Robert Williams is doomsday. Not going to happen. He's going to block the shit out of it even with a bum-ass knee.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's also guarding the 3 that we're not talking about at all. And why this Celtics team is so good at it is what?
I said that might be, you might have to change how you guard the 3. I mean, they have one guy.
Well,
which is you get a very tall guy who's athletic.
And Kate, you know what helps for blocking the 3?
No.
Long arms. And if you look at the Celtics roster, those guys are, I mean, Jason Tatum is a big dude. We don't give him enough credit for being a 2 guard. That guy is lanky and long armed. Robert Williams, long. Al Horford, long.
Yeah.
Even Jaylen Brown. I mean, Derek White, dude, those are tough guys to shoot over. I think the Warriors team is going to struggle more than people realize against this Celtics team. I don't have predictions. I'm not making a prediction, but if we're buying, like, we don't even talk about this, how lucky the Warriors run has been. And I got a little heat on that in our YouTube comments, but they got a Nuggets team without 2 players that are key pieces, Jamal Murray and PJ, 2 scorers. Then they got the Mavs, who just not a good matchup for them. Not a good matchup for them at all. The Suns would have been a more difficult matchup. Who am I missing? Who else did the Warriors play, Cage? Why can't I think of it right now?
The Warriors took out the Mavericks. They had the Rockets. Who the hell did they play in the middle there?
Grizz.
And
then they got
right?
the young Grizzlies.
The Grizzlies. With an injured Ja.
The long as fuck. And then they had the inexperienced
They're
Grizzlies.
very long. And a lot of 3-pointers being shot. Anyway, it's just something I'm thinking about because the numbers are there, and I've seen other people talking about it and how, I mean, maybe it's a nothing thing. Maybe people love watching, 3-pointers. The league has gone away from it, from like center post play, and maybe part of my, my reaction to it, the guttural reaction that I have to it is because the game that I watched growing up, which by the way, if you look at the 90s playoffs, like literally every game came down to the last shot. You know what I mean? Like, take a look. You know what I'd love for you to do? Pull up the Jordan's Last Dance, that when pull up the one where he beat Utah, like you beat the Jazz, right? Pull up that series where that was like the best team ever, right? People hold them up. Look what the final scores were. See how many blowouts there were in that series, because that would be a nice, cool example of like you get to watch some competitive basketball in the finals. I'd be curious. Are there any 20-point blowouts there? Did the best team ever blow out the Jazz, who was like, lucky to be there?
1998. So here, game 1, 88-85. Game 2, 93-88. Game 3, 96-54. Game 4. It was a
Rodman game. Rodman in Vegas game.
Bulls. Game 4. Bulls 86-82. Game 5. Jazz 83-81. Game 6. Bulls 87-86. They really like the 80s. They really like that 80s number.
But I mean, so that's the difference. It's a very different game, right? But I guess what my thought is did the 3-pointer swing it too far? You know what I mean? Like, maybe you don't go back to that where it's run through a post with a triangle on the center and, it's only 2-point shots and it's slow and it's grinding and it's physical. Maybe people don't want to watch 80-point games. I get that. And I'm not opposed to an increased 3-point shot, but it's just the game has really swung in that direction now where people don't even take 2s.
They
give up 2s.
Yeah, the Bulls shot 88 threes. That would be 2 games of threes now.
Yeah, so it's 88
for the whole
series.
series.
Now, I'm not saying to go back to that, but think about that, right? I was treated to every game except for that ridiculous one where I don't even remember what happened. If Rodman was like drunk or whatever that was going on there, but every game was competitive. I think would they win 5 of those games there were 5 points or less. So every game down to the last possession, you get those the shot. You know what I mean? If Curry wins this by the shot, it's going to be his last shot from the logo because they're up by 23.
I know what you're saying. A lot of people do love watching basketball for the last shot. A lot of people don't even watch basketball until it's like the last 6 minutes of the game.
It used to be, hey, last couple minutes. Now it doesn't. Now the last couple minutes in these playoffs, it didn't make a difference. By halftime, you knew who was winning the game.
My friend, who's a high school basketball coach, so not the highest level, but he's. I still don't totally get it, but he always says a basket in the first quarter is just as important as a basket in the fourth quarter. Yeah, I don't totally agree because I think scoreboard, it does matter. Like a lot of people with that Strus 3, they were like, well, they would be winning by 1 and Jimmy Butler wouldn't shoot that 3. And I'm like, the game might have shaped out differently. That
Correct.
Baltimore taken different decisions.
Well, listen, this is why our podcast is the best podcast in the world, because you don't just come on and say, you know what, kid, you're right. They need to change. They need to push the 3-point line back. Because you are a younger generation. You're somebody who enjoys this. You don't think that it's ruining the competition or ruining the product that's being put out there. I happen to think that if it's not a problem right now, it's getting to be a problem. We've seen it. You and I literally have talked about, like, how did he give up that layup? Oh, because he's kicking it out for a contested 3. Because analytics say, just keep chucking. And it's a different sport than it was 20, 30 years ago, which doesn't mean that it's worse. It's just an interesting observation that I've seen some folks make, and I tend to agree.
I mean, the Bucks. I think the Bucks have to change coaches here, because the Bucks' entire premise is on defense. We're gonna have 2 towers, Giannis and Brook Lopez, and we're gonna live and die by letting the other team shoot the 3. So I don't know. We'll be back tomorrow, Luca Nation. Sasha Tamadon's episode. People freaking loved it.
Oh yeah, blowing up.
Even though West Coast lower energy Cage and I are yelling at the screen most of the times, he's just chilling. People like that. It's okay. Love you, Luca Nation. We'll be back tomorrow. We got some awesome stuff coming up. I'll wrap it there. Peace.
Thank you all for listening to another episode of Lucas, Tigers, and Bronzo Mai. I wanted to tell you about a new service that we have starting as of today, and I'm really, really excited to bring it to you guys. So, as a part of our partnership with SGC, we got 50 free submissions every single month, and many of you have taken advantage of that. And it's amazing that we could have the opportunity to 650 episodes, 675 episodes in, to go ahead and give back to our community. As people were sending those cards in, they asked, can we send 5, 10, 20 more cards to you guys? We'll pay for it, but we wanted them graded with SGC. You guys know SGC is turning cards around in 13 to 14 business days, have incredible customer service, and their secondary market values are going up day after day after day. And that's exciting for the hobby and exciting for the grading landscape. So we didn't want to just rush into it. We wanted to do it right. And what we did was I relocated here to Boca Raton, Florida. I opened up a P.O. box maybe 5 minutes away from SGC, and I will be hand delivering and hand picking up the cards. So you don't have to worry about anyone else touching your cards. It will be me, and I will update you every step of the way. So here's how it's going to work. I'm going to personally pick up the cards from a P.O. box, prep them, new card saver, new penny sleeve, and deliver them to SGC every single Tuesday. Why Tuesday? Well, it lets the stragglers over the weekend come back through on Monday and gives me a day to prep, and it basically gives SGC the entire week to work on grading those cards. Once your cards pop, only then at the end of the process will you be paying for the service. It's $25 per card, simple as that, and the turnaround times have never been faster. We're hearing right now 13, 14, less than 20 business days. So there it is. 9170 Glades Road, number 135 is the P.O. Box in Boca Raton, Florida, 33434. 9170 Glades Road, number 135, Boca Raton, Florida, 33434. Of course, you could shoot me an email or shoot me a text anytime, and I'm always available. Many of you already have my email. It's iamandrewgoldberg@gmail.com. or my cell phone number, 215-519-9154. Reach out with any questions. I could walk you through the process. I've hopped on the call with quite a few of you, and I'm happy to do that. Love you, Luca Nation.